Hi, I'm Dave Ceruolo. I'm here with my friend Tina Crowley. She's with Remax Trinity, and we're going to discuss some issues that may arise when and if we have an older client that's looking to sell their home. So Tina, when we have an older client and we're working as a team,
Yep.
and they're looking to sell their home, what are the things that you typically start talking with them about? What are their concerns, and what do you start talking with them about?
Generally, when I meet with older clients, their biggest concern is always about finding the new home, finding that place before they list their property.
So they don't want to be homeless, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
They're always concerned about
They're
being
nervous.
homeless. Nervous,
Yeah.
right. So generally, I'll meet with them, have a really good conversation, talk to them about the process, that we go through as a team to make sure that they feel really confident and comfortable about listing their house, and they understand all the steps. For many older clients, they haven't bought or sold a home in a very long time.
Right, exactly.
And the process is different now than it was maybe 30 or 40 years ago. So we'll meet with them, we'll talk about the process.
Try to make them feel comfortable.
Absolutely. We always want them to feel comfortable. I want them to always feel confident. They're in good hands. They have a whole team. Not just me, but they have a whole team working for them to get them to where they want to be.
All right, so let's say, we have the older client, you
Yep.
contact me and you say, we got this older client. So, and I say, all right, well, we'll talk to them about the contingency when the time comes, because they're going to have to put some language in their purchase and sale to protect themselves.
Yep.
But so when it comes to like staging the property, what do you usually
Yep.
start to do to help them out with that process? Because I don't know anything about that. I don't help them stage
Yep.
property.
So what I do is I'll meet with them. Sometimes it's in person. Oftentimes they ask me to come to their home. And really what it's about is trying to get them to do, things that make sense. Always we talk about the front of the house,
Yeah.
keeping it nice and neat, making it look
Potted plants or
yeah,
something.
a couple
like
of potted plants,
curb
nothing
appeal.
too curb appeal, nothing too crazy. I explain to them that buyers now they're really always looking online, but when the house hits the market, they'll do those drive-bys before they ever
So
take
they'll
time.
scope it out before they actually decide
Correct.
whether they want to go in.
Correct. So we talk to them about the front of the house, but when I meet with them, it's always about, I want them to do things that make sense to the house. We don't want them overwhelmed. Declutter is always a big thing. There's a lot of information that we provide them. I'll go to their house. I'll talk to them about what they should maybe put in storage. Less is
Throw
more.
away.
Right. If you're moving.
Clean out that basement.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. When you're moving, for a lot of older people, they're downsizing too. So some of the stuff that they have, they're not going to take with them. So what I tell them is, if you're not taking it with you, now is a great time to get rid of it. And then for the things that they want, I just suggest that they keep it neat and tidy in bins in the basement
pack it
or
away
wherever.
somewhere.
Pack
Yeah.
it away. Right,
keep it
right.
someplace
So we
safe.
talk about that. They'll ask me about doing renovations, because everybody wants, and I want them to get the most money they can for the property, but we want to do things that make sense. Sometimes you can go to someone's house and it doesn't make sense for them to do any
Major renovations.
correct, to the kitchen or to the bathroom, but
They want to do some
painting.
cosmetic stuff to make it
Absolutely.
look nice.
Painting is always a good thing, brighten things up a little bit. If you need references for that, we always have, like I said, it's a team, recommendations, referrals. Deep clean is always a good thing,
Make it smell nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Open up some windows. Get rid of some of the, things that may make the house look a little bit dark, stuff like that. But I'm always trying to get them the most value with the least, with the least amount of expense
Yeah.
to them.
So we got
we'll
the
always
outside
talk about
looking
it.
nice, you get the inside looking nice for little expense as
Sure.
opposed to major renovations.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. to
And
people,
they
yeah.
might not get the money back if they do the major renovations in the house
Correct.
anyway.
Correct.
So that's all good ideas. So now when we talk about making them relax, so for these folks come in, generally they're overwhelmed.
Very.
So, what do you typically like to talk to them about or do to try to make them feel comfortable?
So what I talk to them about in terms of selling their house is the process. I will go through the entire process from beginning to end. There's always things in every deal that can come up. But when you do this full time, when you have a good team, we always have an answer, a remedy, a contingency that we know of, so I'll talk to them from the beginning to the end.
So you give them a little outline as to what's
Give
going to
them a
happen
little
next, which is
outline.
always good, right? Information is power.
Absolutely. Talk to them about day one. From day one, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to hold your hand through the whole thing. Be open, honest,
And you're
upfront,
going to have a
transparent.
good team behind them with a lot of experience.
Absolutely. And that I really do explain to them that's part of it. You and I have worked together often,
Right.
and I'll let them know, when you have a team, if they have a concern on a Saturday night at 8:00, I can get in touch with you.
Right.
The people that I work with just aren't out there over here that don't answer me.
Right.
I never want any of my clients, but particularly,
The older clients.
the older clients,
Right,
I
right.
don't want them worrying about anything. So I will say to them, you can call me, text me, email me, however you feel comfortable. Reach out to me. We'll talk about it. And if I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer. We're always there for
You've
them.
been at it long enough that you
Yeah.
understand the
Oh, yeah,
process
yeah,
and
yeah.
you know where to go. And likewise, I have too. We're a team, so we work together a lot. So, all right, so now we move toward actually when you list their property,
Yep,
right, and you get an offer on the table.
sure.
So you start to talk about the contingency with them that they should
Yep.
think about inserting into the offer.
Yeah, so, when I'm always going to protect them. So when their house is listed from day one, we'll always, unless they already have a place to go to, unless they're going with family or
Right.
what have you, when I list the property, we'll always have a contingency in there that it is subject to seller finding suitable housing,
yeah.
closing on that housing. That way, they know they're not selling their house until they close on their house.
And you're setting actually me up because the next step then you turn the client over to me with the offer.
Yep.
And then, so a contingency in general is a condition that must be met before a party is bound to a contract. So when I talk to folks about their contingencies when they're looking to sell and then buy, they usually have, in general, options available to them. They can either ignore the situation. If there's plenty of time between when they sign their contract and when they're going to close, then they know that they have a place that they're eventually going to find. So they can not put the contingency in if they so elect. I don't recommend that. The second option that they have is they can certainly rent for a period of time or go to a hotel for a period of time if that's what they want to do. And then once again, the contingency won't be necessary. But in general, when you have a contingency that is subject to them finding suitable housing, I usually will take the next step and define that in the purchase and sale, because the next step in the process after the offer is going to be the purchase and sale. And I'll define it and I'll say this contract is specifically contingent upon the seller finding a new home and closing upon the new home prior to this contract, prior to the closing on this contract. And so what that will do for folks is that will leave the window open so that if, for whatever reason, they do find that place that they want to go to, and they have a contract and we can talk about the next contract, which is kind of a domino effect, but just sticking to the contract for the sale, the next step down the line, if they do find that place, if that seller of their new home has a delay for any reason, then our client can turn around to their buyer and say, I have a delay on where I'm going to go. We have to put a reasonable extension in place. And the buyer has to comply with that because the contingency is in the purchase and sale. So that's the way we would protect somebody
Right.
that's looking to sell and then buy. Now, the next step down the line would be our client actually going into a contract for the purchase of their new home. And we would then, once again, go through the same process with them, but it would be a different contingency. It would be subject to them selling their home, completing the sale on their home prior to the purchase. So in this way that they'll work together and it'll be a domino effect.
Right, because they're all, so often they have two concerns. One, their major concern is, am I going to be left homeless? Am I going to have to sell my house with nowhere to go? Or that they're going to be carrying two homes, that they're going to have to buy the house that they find without the house that they were selling being sold. But from day one, we work in a manner that protects them from selling without, finding a new place, and buying without selling. So we and like I said, when I meet with them, I go over that entirely, but you are protected.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and then part of the dynamic here is the communication between the two of us.
Yeah.
You need to have a good team behind you, whether you're buying or selling. So, and you want the experience behind you. You want a realtor that actually is doing this full time. You want an attorney that's been out there for a while and has seen a lot of the things that go on out there. So in that way, that's the way we protect our clients in general, but especially the client that's up there in age and a little bit more nervous than most.
Yeah, they just haven't done this as often. They haven't moved. When you're talking about millennials or younger people, they've moved many times, a lot. Before they buy their house, maybe they've had a condo, they've sold that, or they've just moved. For like my parents, when I sold their house, they hadn't sold or bought a house in 35 years.
Right.
The process was
part of it's patience,
Yes.
Patience and understanding where they're coming from. A lot of it's sentimental value too, which we run across a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm Dave Ceruolo. This is Tina Crowley. Would you come back and join me again if we do another video? So this is our first video together. We're going to do more. We'll see you next time. Take care. Be safe.